Shaders and ray tracing change the game entirely when it comes to Minecraft aesthetics, and all of the builds you're seeing right now are absolutely top-notch, and then layered on top of that, we have some of the best graphics you can throw into Minecraft, except actually, you know what, every single time you see ray tracing, it's on the highest quality of builds, but I am willing to admit that I am not a very good builder, and yet I have spent over 10 years building in creative in this one world, and today we're going to be looking around that world, but with ray tracing turned on, so that we can see what ray tracing looks like in the much more average case of, say, my Horse-a-Lot. This is half horse, half ocelot. I had a much better vision in mind than what it ended up looking like. What does this look like with ray tracing though? Let's turn it on and let's find out. Wow, isn't that beautiful? Oh my god, the beauty is... See, it's actually funny because the body of the horse really does look pretty quite good, but then the goofiness of the ocelot face, it can't be saved with ray tracing. Because yeah, we often see the beauty of graphics layered on top of something beautiful in the game, but what about when those two things don't come together, like this zombie head that for some reason I made, or this bee, or this duck? Actually, these are some pretty solid builds. They're really improved by ray tracing. But what about transportation, let's say? What you're looking at right now is my attempt at building a car, an automobile, solely from memory. As you can see, I don't necessarily have the best memory of, or even honestly knowledge of what a car should look like. And so this is the end result. It looks pretty good as far as I'm concerned, but you know how we can make it look better? That's right, ray tracing on. Oh my god, look how realistic it looks now. It's amazing how much more it looks like a car. I'd actually say for some reason it looks like a plane with ray tracing turned on. Can you see that, right? Like the super long nose that comes out over a body that kind of curves backwards. It looks like a very strange plane at the front and then kind of like a weird animal at the back. I guess like a bee, you could almost say. Or a missile, perhaps, is what this is. And my god, has it saved my Minecraft build? Basically has. Look around the rest of this and you start to see things like my Ender Dragon head. Ooh, looking pretty good. Or one of my favorites right here we're gonna have to show off next. This was meant to be my impression of Steve mixed with a creeper. As you can see, it looks like something else. I kind of messed this one up. However, how do you save all bad builds? Turn those shaders up to 11 and then, ooh, yeah. Look at it now. Looks like, something else, definitely. And so yeah, looking around the world and seeing things that have previously looked very terrible, but still look terrible because the ray tracing's on, does do some wonders. I think also having the render distance turned down, because ray tracing uses a lot of graphical resources and so you can't see as much, kind of does help some things, because you might be mistaken for thinking that like, oh, this is probably just the one terrible build in the world. This attempt at building a ship where for some reason the water is 1 deep and for some reason the bottom of the boat is exactly flat. You know, this attempt at building a ship was just the only bad attempt. And then when you see the warden behind you, you're like, well, you know, this is only one bad attempt. And then you see the giant buff frog and you're like, actually, this thing looks pretty sweet. But yeah, as you can see, I've built a lot of things over the years. Some of those things are actually okay. Like this bat, it's fine, you know? It's built mostly from concrete and concrete powder. I feel like we did a good enough job of it. This creeper, a little bit less so. This Spyro the Dragon, a little bit copyright infringement material. But actually, you know, I would say this is such a bad rendition of Spyro that it's not even copyright infringement. Did you know that was Spyro the Dragon till I pointed it out? I bet not. Just like this cat over here. Do you know what this cat is from? I guarantee you don't, because I built it so poorly. The one thing you might recognize is this. This is Doge, a Shiba Inu. And if we go down here, as you can see, oh, Doge. I thought I wrote something more funny there. Apparently not. Anyway, my goal today is to show you around this world and show you around some of the weirdest and, let's be honest, ugliest things I've built over the past few years, and it'll be fun to do that because you'll be able to see what these things can look like once we massively improve them. However, if you're not familiar with the navigation of my creative world, because oh wow, looks really good on the inside, right? Look at this. But if you're not familiar with the navigation of my creative world, this is the combination of a few different creative worlds, the one main one that's been going for 11 years, but also a few other projects that I started for various videos that I've merged together in one here, so we can see I've built a city back when Minecraft Bedrock first came out, and I tried to make the city as good as I could. I'm gonna level view. Builds like this probably did not succeed. I mean, definitely did not succeed. It is so strange the way this glass is reflecting things. Like, this is not natural. And so yeah, you can see my lovely green skyscraper. I've received lots of fun compliments on that one, and by compliments I mean, What's the opposite of a compliment again? That one. That's what I've actually received. This is also the area where me and Grian all those years ago did a build battle where he had to make a building look good and I had to make it look bad. We obviously had limitations to make that fair because it's way easier to do the second one. But you can see these builds which look at least slightly questionable when looked normally. When you turn on the RTX, you'd be forgiven for thinking like, oh, yeah, the brown on the floor was a very deliberate decision. Look at the beauty of the misplaced carpet. The sponge block in the corner, oh, we really are saving things here. And the realism of the gravel coming out of the roof. This is, it's just amazing. We've got, I think this is a basketball court over here, as you can see. Looking pretty good. We've got, I don't even know, honestly, looking at this. But the best one of all is, of course, this lovely little cabin by the woods here. We have hidden in here. Man, it's so strange. Look at the ender chest. It just becomes partially transparent for some reason. Or is that reflecting? Honestly, I think it is just reflecting, actually. But it looks like it's transparent because this RTX pack makes everything reflective for some reason. Anyway, as you can see, look how good it looks on the inside here. Ooh, yeah. Low light is truly where RTX shines. And yeah, even, I don't know. I don't think the staircase is operable. Yeah, it just leads you up to a nothing room. But yeah, as you can see, there are some things which look really, really, really good. And that's funny to me, like just coming out of a shack that is clearly not designed to be good, but somehow works anyway. Pretty nice. Obviously, I should mention, even Minecraft's own structures aren't immune from this effect. I mean, villages or end cities, for example, they look extra interesting when you layer this effect on, right? Like, isn't there just something else entirely going on here? Admittedly, this isn't the overworld where there's a lot more light than the end, but you can still see that, like, yeah, this feels like a different place. It's much more thematic and scary. Maybe a little bit too much. Actually, wait, if we break one of these windows, how does that light interact with the rest of this light? Apparently in very interesting ways. Look at that. See, the shadow and the effects that are going on right here that I'm then wasting to be like, hey, do you want to look at my giant area where I placed 100,000 chests and it broke my game and so I had to not? Look how good it looks when you turn on the ray tracing, huh? We also have one of my favorite weird builds that I feel like is underappreciated is the Ghast Nether Portal design. This is a Ghast, but it's also a Nether Portal. Isn't it terrifying? Only me? Okay, only me. Fine. That's okay. But to stay on track, yeah, this is the area of my world where I was building a city when Minecraft Bedrock came out and I had to make a separate creative world because I didn't want to break my existing creative world. Then, funnily enough, this creative world itself actually did then break, so there's a lot of builds that are gone. You can also see some things like this hospital. I followed a tutorial to build this one. Are you proud of me? I only followed the tutorial for the front though, and then from the side I just figured, you know what are hospitals made out of? Probably glass. I don't know, man. And again, same kind of thing here, where you would expect it to be very, 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 dull and uninteresting, but instead just opening the transition between any building and the real world is always kind of cool. Same here with the hotel. I'm sure it's true. Less stained glass effect, but still oh yeah. The outside world is just enticing you in. All of this natural light coming in is really adding a ton to it. Although the sun rendering over the glass definitely isn't. And yeah, in general, very, very cool, very fun little area. But there's more of them, because this is my in real life house. I did the Minecraft challenge where you build your house in Minecraft, except I don't know how to build, and so what we ended up with looks something a bit like this. Would you like the tour of my old abode? I don't live here anymore. So first of all, we've got the living room. Clearly you can see with RTX why you need lighting, like a lantern on the ceiling could solve this. But we've got ourselves a lovely big TV screen that takes up the most of this room. We've got a little sofa in front of it. I've got a little table that I used to sit at and play D&D. I don't play D&D anymore because I live too far away from my D&D friends. You know what? I'm just saying, the sacrifices I make. Am I right, internet? But then we've got the kitchen. It was always it's got 2 sets of countertops. There was a lot of space here. Then we've got a fridge, which is just crying obsidian apparently. And then we've got a bathroom, which has 2 doors between it and the kitchen, because that is a legal requirement in the UK. And then as you can see, my lovely little courtyard. Wow, this is my house, but in Minecraft. Honestly, it's amazing how much RTX does for it, but also how much it kind of ruins it in a way. This is one of the first builds where it's objectively worse because you just see so much less. This is the lighting I'm meant to have. This is the lighting I get with ray tracing. Because again, it requires I guess low light is much lower light and high light is much higher light because they can trace it much more effectively, I guess. So here is the bedroom I used to sleep in. It definitely wasn't this size. I definitely just portioned out the house wrong. But that's fine. That's okay. Speaking of things that are fine or okay, look, here's where I used to make the videos. It looks different now. Do you want to see it now? I'm lying to you. It looks exactly the same. It's still a green screen back there. Honestly, as far as most of my videos go, because I do have the green screen up, it might as well be the same place, huh? Maybe I never did move house, and I'm lying because that's what people do on the internet. All the time. Can you believe them? Anyway, speaking of things you might not believe, I'm going to turn off my face cam. It doesn't add anything to the video, and I'm just going to get a comment about how, I don't know, my nose upsets you. You know what? Your nose upsets me. You ever consider that? You ever consider how it's your nose that's the problem here? You probably have. I'm sorry. So here you can see, I don't know why I decided to do this right next to my house. Again, really feels like it ruins some of the aesthetic. But you can see, man, yeah, what I should do is I should move all of this, like a few blocks that way, and like build maybe like a street that I used to live on. Something like that. Would be fun, right? Anyway, this is my giant redstone. As you can see, it's a redstone torch, powering some redstone dust, powering a repeater, powering a redstone lamp. It's very fun. I like the idea a lot. I don't know why, but it just kind of appeals to me. I definitely want to build something like this in my survival world as like the redstone area, because I feel like playing around redstone in survival is something that I want to do more of, because, you know, redstone in creative is fun enough, but like actually doing real things in the survival world, when it succeeds, it feels extra good, because it's a hard mechanic to master. Speaking of hard things to master, that was unrelated to this video. I'm sorry that I wasted some of your time on that. Instead, you might prefer looking at this. These are just things I built in my background gameplay, because I'm trying to slowly link all the landmasses that I've built over time, because obviously on this landmass, this is where I built my Nether village. I converted a village into a Nether one by turning all the blocks one by one into different ones. It was one of my silly projects, but again, it looks a lot nice with RTX, doesn't it? It looks like a real build almost. No, it actually looks pretty objectively terrible, but that's half of the fun as far as I'm concerned. What are you doing here, friend? This is the area of the world where I started building some comments from the internet. As you can see, someone said to build this comment, and so I built the comment. Look how fun and creative I am. Speaking of fun and creative, we also have over here a, you know, rather than showing it normally, how about, ooh, yeah. Doesn't the desert well made from desert wells look significantly more impressive now? Yeah, this is all terrible. But I do want to show off, this is my dream house, I believe. Is it really my dream house? I have low standards for a dream, huh? But as you can see, if you look around my dream house, has someone lit this on fire? Is my dream house just always on fire? Or has there been some griefing going on? Well, you know what? My dream house is literally fire, as you can tell. And the best thing about this... Oh wait, this must be because I can't subscribe to myself. And by the way, did you know greater than 99% of house fires happen to people who aren't subscribed to the IBX Toycat channel? I'm just saying, statistically, better to be safe than sorry, as I apparently am right now. Speaking of things I am, yeah, this is actually like a cool modern house, right? Like, using this like giant two-story area. I've learned from looking at houses since this, that this is actually a cool modern trend to like, yeah, have a big two-high-story thing, because it just looks extra cool to be able to see you know, all this extra height. Because the thing that makes luxury is, I think, like space and light, right? This has a ton of space and a ton of light. And so, yeah, pro tip. Space and light, you need a ton of it. And in this case, we have a ton. Oh, look how weird this looks. It's like a warp. Anyway, you can see the height difference between all of this and the rest of my world. We could probably lower that now that the height limit goes down to -64. Actually, can we? Okay, this is a world I haven't played around with properly since 1.18. Can I just start building down? I can. Yeah, we might use like commands to lower all these chunks to make that slightly less noticeable. Because that is, you know, like it was kind of an inevitable reality of having so much world. But that might be a smart way around things. Speaking of a smart way around things, you know what the best form of transport in Minecraft is? The giant spider. And yeah, no, this is just as scary in RTX as it is normally. Also, the pack that we're using today, I think it's called Defined PBR or something, doesn't let you look at your banner patterns, which means my beautiful, beautiful British flag is not usable. And so that's the real crime of today. Speaking of real crimes for today, do you want to see my sheep and my polar bear? They look, yeah, again, these are all perfectly normal builds, like a giant ice block, an Xbox One, that looks absolutely great. No one can tell me otherwise. Look at the 4J logo. It's all looking pretty fine until you see stuff like a mushroom house. I like the way this looks, by the way. Wow. You know what? I bet it's only the RTX doing this, right? Yeah, look how terrible this otherwise looks. No, it looks like it is just a giant fat red mushroom. I'm liking it, huh? You know, if you want to build your house out of some unique blocks, this is the way to go. I don't know why there's so much gravel in these chests. I feel as though when looking around my own world, like I've been griefed, but that's just really how I build, apparently. Something I was convinced was the smartest idea ever was this. Like having an ice pathway so you can jump around your world a little bit quicker, and then for some reason using half slabs so you let in as much light as possible, and then having glowstone at the top just high enough up that it doesn't, like, you know, melt the ice, and that way you could have like night lights. And it's like, why did I ever think that would be a good idea? Why did I ever think people would design pathways with these little floaty things? Like, it looks somewhat cool, but I think in every other way it's terrible. And it probably only looks cool because of the ray tracing. Speaking of things that look cool because of the ray tracing, this is a house or a barn that I think is actually harmed. Like, why is the wood reflective? Did they just make every material reflective? That's what it looks like. Speaking of things that it looks like, we also have a mega beacon right here. I don't think it's turned on right now, but we do have one. We have, yeah, so this is where I show off a lot of, like, technical things. So, like, the distance of a beacon, how you can do some wacky redstone stuff to make beacons change their color. Look at this. This is the way you've got to do things. And so, yeah, I have a lot of weird stuff like that going on in this world. I have this weird obsession with concept houses. Like, can you build a house out of any block? And the answer is, more often than not, like, technically, but should you can build a house out of wither skeletons. And this one does not get saved by ray tracing. I'd say it gets worse, because all the reflections make it extra confusing. It looks like an art project more than a house. But if you're killing this many wither skeletons, you probably should only be using them for an art project. And definitely not your house. Speaking of things that are good for a house, I'm assuming this lever activates that gate, right? Ah. Whoa, the way that fades in, that's cool, right? It's a ghostly gate. The rainbow beacon also almost looks very cool, but because there's only one color allowed per beam in Bedrock, it looks like, it doesn't really work the way it's meant to. Yeah, that describes a lot of things looking around here. Like, why are nether portals blue? Whose decision was that? There's a lot of things about this texture pack that are high-end and beautiful, but also are a little bit confusing, right? Anyway, I couldn't close down this video without showing you some of my biggest and most ridiculous builds, such as this. This is still, by the way, in my opinion, the smartest way to make your end portal accessible if you have literally dozens of hours to spend building it. Even in creative and using commands, it takes a very long time to make a perfect staircase like this. But the end result is you can have water that flows onto your end portal. Isn't that what we all want? No, it's not. Oh, God. It feels like this shouldn't happen, right? Oh, what was that? What was that? Oh, yeah, this definitely feels like it's not okay. Yeah, I guess that describes how it was before, though, right? Man, isn't that beautiful? We, of course, have all sorts of other beauties in the same area from my massive projects that you should not do in survival days. And I do have to say, looking at almost all of these is a lot of fun. This one just seems like a good idea, right? Like, why not have a big wall around your village that only has one way in and out? I bet you could even, like, set up some automatic daylight sensors to close that as nighttime comes. That's a good idea for a build, huh? You know what? I think the cool thing... So I decided to show off this world just because I've been spending a lot more time in my creative world recently. Why is there a big gap here? And I do have to say, something about looking around your old stuff, like, makes you criticize yourself a lot. Don't get me wrong, lots of terrible things. I'm sure there's enough criticism of me before I even bring it up myself. But I do have to say that there's something, like, inspiring about seeing, like, some of these ideas and where they were probably meant to be going. And, yeah, the end result is something that actually is very fun. Like, I think it's very inspiring that sometimes, you know what if the best inspiration comes from inside yourself? And if not inside yourself, maybe from watching clearly over-the-top RTX effects on builds that really don't need or deserve the effort that is being put into them. Regardless of what it was that you enjoyed about this video, I hope that you did. I do think that, like, I'm always making jokes about how, like, yep, it's all about survival for me, and that is most of how I play, but it is, you know, like, there is a whole other game mode out there, and it's fun to play around with it. So I think the clear sign from the amount of fun that I've been having in this world recently and the amount of putting it together I've been doing is we need to do a creative Minecraft Let's Play. So, 5,000 likes, and we'll play Minecraft. We'll do a full Let's Play of Minecraft in creative mode. It'll be a lot of fun. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be one of the biggest challenges we've ever faced, but I think we can do it if we believe in ourselves. Anyway, speaking of believing in ourselves, I believe that you will find your way to the exit because the video's over now. Goodbye. Do you want to click one of those things on screen? I bet you do. Would be interesting, huh?